Welcome to the Two Old Kids and Two Young Adults podcast. We've combined life experience with young adult drive and ambition. Are you just starting to college plan? Did you finish your education and wonder, now what? Join us in this lively discussion about the topics you need to know to create the next stage of your life's dreams, careers, finances, education, and more. Welcome to Two Old Kids and Two Young Adults podcast. This is an amazing platform where we are helping our young adults to find their way, answer questions, resources, what careers are out there, and how to navigate through. And today's guest is perfect for that. We have Kimberly Hopewell, who is an amazing entrepreneur, branding expert, franchise expert, who has navigated her way through kicking, elbowing, asking for the business, and making it happen. And she's here to talk about that today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, Capri and Alex are at a place where they're both really starting their lives. And so everything has been college driven. Of course, in high school, that's all we hear about. But you have such a great story. And so I know that we want to dive into that and what some of your experience is. Can you tell us just a little bit about your expertise, though, especially in franchising and branding?
Sure. So I started franchising in 1994. And it was and you guys may know this, Jackson Hewitt and Liberty Tax. They've been around for a while. So John Hewitt was the founder and CEO of both of those. And so I kind of found my niche doing that and absolutely loved it. And, I know you guys were talking about, going to college and not going to college. And I never finished college. And so for me, I really threw myself into the different businesses that I was in. And so franchising really helped me to work with other people, other entrepreneurs and those who didn't go to college, and to have their own business. And so I love working with people, and that's kind of how it is right now for me. Just working with them from across the country is what I do. What kind of questions do you guys have for me?
You want to start, Alex? Yeah, well, I know you went over a little bit of your experience, just super fascinating background. I just want to dive right in. I know Ed told us you had a very fascinating story about how you got a job where you did not have a college degree at the time. So we've obviously, a big topic has been, people who have a college degree, but would love to hear your story about how you got this job without having a college degree at the time.
Absolutely. So I was working for a medical company where we did, it's called gas monitoring. We went into hospitals and we did monitoring and testing, making sure they were in compliance with all the laws. And the company there really wasn't any place for me to go to move up in the company. So I started looking around, and I had a friend who was working at this other company. And I looked into them and I thought, man, I really want to be a part of this because they do a lot of recruiting with doctors. They work with, different specialties. That's where I want to be. So I started looking, and I realized that you had to have a 4-year degree. They preferred you to have a master's degree. And I thought, man, you know what? That's my stumbling block because I didn't finish college. I only have 2 years. I always said I'm going to go back, but it's like, what can I do to get my foot in the door? Because once I can get my foot in the door, I felt very confident. I can sell myself, right? So I ended up thinking, what can I do outside the box? Well, it's different now because you have Indeed, you have more electronic stuff. But back then, you mailed your resume.
Oh, yeah.
So I put it in a big orange manila envelope because, typically when you send a resume, it's going to be in a very small white one. And I wanted to hit the person's desk. I wanted them to say, what is that? And then grab hold of it. So, and then once they did open that up, or maybe it was the office manager who opened it up and maybe he didn't see or she didn't see the bright orange envelope. So the cover letter had to be something that was going to be spectacular. And I pretty much just started the cover letter off by saying, don't be fooled by college degree, or no, don't be fooled by college degrees and fancy titles. And I just kind of went into who I was. What I wanted to do. And then I happened to see their company and did my own research, talked to some friends, and I got the interview. And, I was very surprised when they called me. So I came in and he actually said to me when I sat down, he goes, I wanted to meet the person who had the biggest kahunas to write what she did because I wanted to see what she could do for me, basically. So I went through the interview. There were 14 of us to begin with. It came down to me and 2 guys that had their master's degrees. And I knew I did not have any chance, in moving forward at this point. But when I got the call that I got the job, my first question to him when I went in for my, orientation day was, why did you choose me? And he said, because you were hungry. And he said, and I knew that by your attitude and by what you were going to do, you're going to do more for me than those two guys with your degrees, because you made that point. Mm-hmm. And it was a great opportunity for me. And that's where I met my husband. We've been married for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And so, and my biggest thing on that is you have to believe in yourself. And the two biggest things that I think we beat ourselves up on is, one is fear, and the second one is self-doubt. Mm-hmm. So you have to have that confidence. I don't think you need to be overly confident, but you have to have that confidence in yourself that I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get this, whether it's going in to college and getting the right college you want to get into, or getting that job that you want to, with or without a degree.
It's really interesting. I love what you said. Real quick question too, and then I'll let you ask Capri. What made them think that, wow, this person is hungry? What did you do? What did you say to really make them say that about you?
I think it was the cover letter to begin with, because I had some other things in the cover letter, right? It stands out. And then during the interview process, every person that I had the interview with, because we had to go to each different department to have the interviews. And I asked a lot of questions. Well, how do you do this? Well, why would you do that? Have you ever thought about doing this? Just asking a lot of different questions, and then kind of giving my 2 cents back. I don't know how to do that, but I am so willing to learn. That sounds fascinating. I think a lot of it too is you really have to understand and really like what you're doing. And I knew the company going in and what they were all about. And so it made me go in to have these questions of, hey, this is what I see myself doing, and how do I get there? And so every single person that I interview with said the same thing. She's hungry. She wants this.
They could see the hustle.
They could.
Yeah.
They could. And it turned out, because he gave me a chance, it also made me want to be the best that I could be with that company. And I was the #1 sales rep for the entire year that I was there. 2 years, actually.
Congratulations. That's no small feat.
Yeah, that's extremely impressive.
Well, that, and the fact that I didn't want to also, I really appreciated the opportunity that he gave to me. So I didn't want to disappoint him. Yeah. So it was almost like a father figure to me in a way. And so with that, I did hustle, and which was great because, along with that came the commissions, too. But I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I probably still would have been with the company had I not met my husband and ended up moving to a different state. But yeah.
That's such a great story. I know I've already said that, but as someone who hasn't really been through the whole, I've only been to a handful of interviews in my life, and just hearing that is very inspiring, because it's you don't have to have every single thing to be qualified or be able to get that job. Kind of on the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff is too, it's very intimidating when you go to an interview. Even for me today, it's still intimidating. And I think, you ask them questions, because the way that I kind of look at it too is they're interviewing me for this job, but I'm also interviewing them. I want to make sure that I'm a right fit for them, just like, they're the right fit for me. And so I think if you kind of go in with that attitude as well, and then say, well, this is what I'm looking for. And don't be ashamed or scared to say, this is what I'm looking for. If you guys can offer this to me, this is where my path is. And, do you fit that?
That confidence and connection that you can make is really powerful, because you're showing that your value already as well, which means that you're going to be able to give your value as well to that company. If it has to be a match, it's a big decision to join a company, to take on a job. And when you make it more equal grounds like that you're both finding each other a fit, they can sense that.
Right. It is, and I don't know if he told you that we're the highest title that I've had. I've had a couple of companies that I've owned myself, but recently being in the franchising, spectrum again, this is going to my second year of this company. I ended up becoming this, COO of one of our brands.
Wow. And,
you think about that. A lot of times you wouldn't think a COO with not having a college degree, and it can happen. It can, but it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard. I'm 56 years old. Could this have happened 20 years ago? That would have been great.
Right.
But at the same time, you have dreams. Don't forget them. Keep going for them. It doesn't matter how old you are. or how much college, degree do you have?
Exactly. I feel like there comes a certain point where it's not about the piece of paper that you got X amount of years ago. It's about the experience that you've accumulated over the years and all the
Absolutely.
accomplishments that you've had as well.
Absolutely. It is. And the people that I've met along the way, like I said, in 94, I started working with John Hewitt. Well, I'm back with him again, so this is, 20 some years later. And he reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yes.
So you had those connections, and it's easier now, with social media. I mean, man, if we had social media back then,
Oh, can you imagine?
I know exactly.
I know.
Game
So
changer,
now
yeah.
it's like utilize that. I utilize LinkedIn like crazy in making connections, and because you never know where that one connection can lead. And the same thing what I'm doing right now in franchising. When someone picks up the phone call and they call me and say, "Hey, I'm interested in buying a company," well, tell me about yourself, because I need to know who they are, because they may not be a right fit for us.
Yes.
But at the same time, they may not be the right person to even have their own company. So guess what? Come and work for me first. And then let's see, where you fit in, because you may fit more in a manager's position in the corporate life than you would owning your own company. So, and vice versa.
And Kimberly, I don't know about you, but 20 years ago, my database was a giant book that had all the business cards and the little plastic files that I could scroll through as a Rolodex, and then the Rolodex on the desk that you would flip through.
Yep. It's funny you should say that. A couple of years ago when I was redoing my office, I have one of those books that zips up. You open it up and you're right. It had all
the cards.
And I'm going back through these cards going, I wonder if any of these people are one still alive.
Yes.
But I'm looking and going through them. I wonder if they're still at these same places.
That's how we had to do it then.
Yes.
With our little handwritten notes on the top of it, so we would remember who was who and where we met them. Yes.
Right. And the research. I mean, we didn't have the computers back then to do the research. You can just do Google now and find out not only the company, but who the people that work for them and then what their backgrounds are. We didn't have any of that.
We had to ask around.
Yes.
Yeah,
that,
so much
you
easier
go
now.
live. Yes, it is so much easier. And LinkedIn.
So much easier. We paid our dues. Trust me.
Yes, we did. Yes,
I know you find
we
5
did.
seconds.
Your dues.
Exactly.
What questions do you have?
So where are you? So go ahead.
No, you can go. Don't worry about it.
I was going to ask you a question, but I want you to go ahead and ask.
Okay, so a little more about the research, since we just started talking about that. What are some things that you recommend knowing before any interview?
I like knowing the person who I'm interviewing with. And again, like we just said, it's just easier to do it now. So when you get onto LinkedIn and go to the social media pages of their Facebook, their Instagram, because here's something that when I was working for that medical company, there was a clinic that was in Meade. It's a Meade clinic that was in Arizona. We had been trying for years to get into their business, to get their business. So I happened to call late one night. The manager happened to answer the phone. I was talking to her and she goes, "Look, I can't talk to you right now. I'm late for my daughter's recital. I need to, get to that. I'll talk to you, we'll have another time to talk." The first thing I said to her when we answered the phone the next time that we talked was, "How was your daughter's recital?" Yeah. So right there, she showed, I had an interest in her. Yeah. If you can go in with that and have that interest and say, "Hey, I see that you ski, that you've gone the ski retreat and stuff. I ski as well. How often do you ski?" Just anything that you can have that common. Yeah, exactly. And I think having that little connection and then getting to know other people too in the company. And I name drop. There's nothing wrong with name. There's no shame in name dropping at all.
Yeah,
it's all about getting those details.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finding that connection too. I know I was a psychology major, so I'm a huge nerd about these fun facts. But when people talk about themselves or you ask about them, there's feel-good chemicals that are released in the brain. I don't know if it's serotonin or dopamine or one of those chemicals, but it's a biological thing. So even asking about McDonald's dance recital, that goes such a long way. Just find that little connection. So they'll associate that good feeling with you. So I completely agree. I think finding that, even if it's a small connection, that's so important.
Yes. It is. It really is. And plus it kind of puts me at ease too, because once they start talking, I can hear more of what they're doing and that kind of puts me back at ease.
And kind of their personality and whatnot.
Yes, exactly.
Another follow-up question to kind of go with that. I know that at interviews, you're always supposed to ask the interviewer questions, Do you have any questions that you use very frequently that are more about not the interviewer themselves, but about like the company?
The one thing that I want to know is where the company sees themselves in 5 years. What is their 5-year, their 10-year goal? And then why? Why is that their goal? What is it that they're looking for? Are they looking to, more expansions? Because then it kind of puts me in a position of knowing where am I going to be in this company 5 years from now? Because is there going to be other opportunities where I can get into management? Is there opportunities where maybe, they're going to go abroad? Would there be an opportunity for me to be international? So these are the questions that you kind of want to know.
What is a good way for them to inquire about the company culture as well? Because sometimes a company culture can be a big part of making a decision.
That's
How do you
huge.
ask that without
That's
it being too
huge.
invasive?
Yeah, it's so big.
Like, are you guys
that
all
is-
nice? Are you mean? What's the culture?
Exactly. And that is big. And a lot of times now, when you look at websites, a lot of the companies will have their cultures on there, because we do on all of our brands that we have. And we have 9 different brands that we represent. And all of us have the same culture. And, we even have the core values of our company. And that's huge. That is really big. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions about that too. And then also, what do you do for fun?
Yeah.
You're all about business, but what do you guys do for fun? Do you have company picnics? Do you have company retreats that you go out and do stuff with? Those are the fun things you want to know about the company.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a company culture, but it's quite another to, ask them, how do you show that company culture? Like what's picnics, team building events,
Right.
what are that maybe? That's so important.
It is. It really is.
How important is it from your perspective to know maybe what the turnover is as well with that company and how employees have been there for 20, 30 years?
That's a very good question, because that is something that you want to know. And there's different reasons why people leave. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this past year. I think it was the Great Resignation.
Great Resignation,
yes. So people were leaving, and you're going to find that the people now, because of the social media, they can look at other companies and see that they're hiring and they're giving bonuses to come on board. But that is actually a very big thing to ask, and hopefully they'll tell you the answer, the truth, and why they're leaving. Yeah.
Are there any questions to avoid asking in an interview?
That's a really good question.
Any subjects that are just taboo, you don't go there?
I would used to say probably personal stuff, but everything's on social media now, so I wouldn't even know. I don't know if there's anything else you can't ask.
Have you ever looked at someone's social media page and then decided that because of something that they posted, that you weren't going to interview them or they weren't going to be a good fit for your company?
So that's a very good question on that. So when someone calls me and they're interested in looking at buying one of our franchises, I first go to social media. I want to see all of their information and see what they do. And I don't judge them based off that, because I want to talk to them first, and then if I see what because you have 2 different types of people. Some people who post on social media because they want the attention. And that may not truly be who they really are as far as their working personality. But then you also have the crossover too, that kind of happens. So, but I want to judge by myself talking to them first instead of looking at their social media pages. But that's a big thing nowadays. Companies are looking at social media.
They are.
And and that's the first thing they do. There are companies that literally have a set department that does nothing but checking social medias.
Yes.
And so
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
Entire department.
Take those spring break pictures down.
Exactly. They do. So my son, he has his master's in linguistics. He's teaching at a school in Virginia. And before he interviewed with him, he went through all of his social media stuff and started taking stuff down. And I said, good for you. Not that he had anything bad, but
you never know.
But you never know.
Yeah.
And then also with everything with the political atmosphere and everything that's happened, it's like you need to just try to be a little, vanilla right now.
A little
neutral, yeah. And don't do anything. But things will come back to get you. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
And like I said, I'm kind of glad we didn't have social media back then.
Me too.
Right. So, but I mean, it could be a great thing, to have, but do your research on all the companies. And again, LinkedIn is a great source to go to. And then if you get them on LinkedIn, look and see what their other social media pages are. And also, if they do have charities, that's another thing I look for. If they give back to communities, I ask questions on that. Why did you choose that particular, charity? How often do you do this? Do you look at other charities too? Because now you're getting a little personal, but I think that's also, you kind of see what kind of human being they are. Yeah. And is that the same culture that the company also has, and giving back to the community.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a great thing to post. I know my company, for example, they give you like 1 day off per year paid just to do community service. I know that's a huge thing for people. Yeah.
It's a big thing. I mean, it really is. And I have to say the company that I'm working for, we do a lot with the communities and giving back. And we have different franchises, and one of them is called Little Medical School. And it is such a great concept for this because it's from ages 4 to 14. And so if someone says, oh, I want to be a veterinarian, well, great. We have a curriculum strictly for that. Well, maybe implement being a nurse. Great. We have one strictly for that. Or maybe a pharmacist. Oh, we have one for that too. But it's really good because we also give back to those charities, because they have one that they do for the community. And those that can't afford to do these curriculums, we have it set up that we give scholarships.
Wow.
That's so cool.
That's
incredible
awesome.
Kimberly. Kimberly, you just have, I hopefully all our listeners, their brains are just spinning going, here's how I'm going to do this different from here forward. Wasn't that incredible? Capri, Alex, do you guys just feel like you're ready to go conquer the world now?
Uh-huh. Gosh, I learned a bunch. Yeah.
You're going to go.
I have to tell you,
there's
awesome. One thing that I have on my board in my office, and it's in huge letters that's up there. And it says it was by Peter Drucker. And if you ever have the opportunity to read any of his quotes, please do. But it says that the best way to create the future, or the best way to predict the future, is to create it. Yeah, is to create it.
Oh, I love that.
For me, that's what I look at every day. And it's like, okay, what do I want to create today? What's the future that I want to create for myself and also for the person that's on this phone? What is it that they're looking for? And can I provide that, what they're looking for?
Wow. Well, Kimberly, you've been an incredible guest for us today on the
thank you.
2 Old Kids and 2 Young Adults podcast. This was an incredible episode. I hope everybody shares it and encourages their friends to listen to this one because I think it can make a lot of difference for a lot of young adults. Thank you so much for being part of us today.
You're welcome. I do have one thing. If I had to say one thing, is that if you could remember anything from today, is you may not tell the truth to everyone, but never lie to yourself. Always be truthful to yourself.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you guys for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for your time. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Make sure and subscribe to this show so you don't miss the next episode of 2 Old Kids and 2 Young Adults podcast. We want to hear from you as well. You can email us at 2ok2ya@gmail.com.